Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm using the turmeric that I harvested from the garden. We're going to do a fermentation experiment today. I really want to try to get more into wild sodas, and I wanted to use some of my fresh turmeric roots to make a turmeric bug, which is similar to a ginger bug. It's basically a starter that you have to feed for a few days until it starts getting bubbly, and then you can use to make your wild sodas with. In this case, we are going to need fresh turmeric root, some sugar, and some water. I also have taken out my dehydrator right over here, and I was thinking to slice some of this turmeric up to dehydrate a few slices. And I also want to freeze some fresh like this so I can use for cooking if I want to just grate into something and make curry or paste. So because I do have it fresh, I want to have the ability to grab it and still use it fresh from the freezer. Ginger freezes very well, so I'm sure turmeric root also does. Last year I grew turmeric too, and I actually left it outside on my counter for months and nothing happened to it. It was fine. I just kept using as I needed. But this year we have moved. I'm at a different location and there's different conditions in this house here because some of them started to get moldy. So I saw some mold in a little piece. To avoid that, we are not going to store them just right outside like I did last time. I think maybe it was luck the first time that I did, but it was very convenient. It was nice to have fresh turmeric to use as I needed. I don't have as much as I wanted. I wish I had a bigger harvest. I plan to grow a lot more next year because I love turmeric. It has lots of good anti-inflammatory properties. I love to start putting more in our food and also doing some more fun things like wild sodas, which I've never made before. It'll be my first time. But for that, the first step would be to make this ginger bug, and that's what we are going to start with. So the recipe is very simple. You just grate some turmeric in a jar, mix some sugar and add some water and wait and repeat the process for 3 to 4 days. And I'm linking the recipe that I'm using today with more details to the description box down below, so please feel free to check that out. But here we are going to start with the turmeric. I'm using a microplane to grate this turmeric. And we only need 1 tablespoon. I'm actually going to grate it in this little bowl so we can measure it. You're supposed to leave the skin on because the skin is where all the bacteria lives that will help with the fermentation. I'm gonna start grating, very simple with the microplane. This thing is very sharp, so it's very easy. And the variety that I have here of this turmeric is a bit different than the one we see in the store. A friend of mine gifted me this, the rhizomes. And I believe it's a different variety. It's not the curcuma longa. I haven't got a chance to talk to him to ask specifically the variety yet. It's quite fragrant. It smells medicinal, a lot more than the other one. And it's not as orange, but it's still quite yellow. I have this much here. I think it could be about a tablespoon. Let's measure. Yes, that's good. What you really have to do from the recipe is equal amounts of turmeric and sugar and then a little bit more water. So it's a 1 to 1 to 3 ratio, means 1 part turmeric to 1 part sugar and 3 parts water. We're gonna add this to the jar. Just rinse this and we can do the sugar. Should have added the sugar first actually. And then 3 tablespoons of water. My water is cold, this house is cold. Now in the winter, I think it feels more like winter than fall. But hopefully the fermentation still get going. It might take a little longer than 3 to 4 days, but we'll see. So now we're supposed to mix it well to dissolve the sugar. And we'll cover with something that's breathable and let it sit in a dark and cool place for a day. And we're going to repeat the same process, adding turmeric, sugar, and water again, the same amount, for 3 to 4 days or until it starts getting bubbly. I have a feeling it's gonna take longer here in our house because we keep it a little cooler than usual. But the cool thing is that you can visually see when it starts working. So if it takes like a couple more days, it's fine too. So the recipe below says to cover with cheesecloth. I don't have any cheesecloth at the moment, so I'm just going to put some paper towel. It's still breathable. And instead of a rubber band, I'm just using a mason jar band because that's what I have around too. And that's it. We got the first step of our turmeric bug started, and we're going to use the dehydrator to get to our next project. Okay, I've got a glass bowl in here. Then I'm going to add my mandolin. I love these things. I know they can feel a little dangerous to some, but if you are careful, they are a very good way to do things fast. I have a Japanese ones. They're not that expensive, but I really like this one. I am not going to use the guard because, to be honest, I lost it. But if you're doing this at home, please be safe. You can use either a cutting glove or guard when you're slicing. And for this one, I think I do want to peel. I have all these rootlets in here from where I was growing. It's looking a little coarse. And since I'm going to turn into a powder, I'm going to peel off the skin. I'm going to use a spoon. That's the easiest way that I find to peel roots like this, ginger, turmeric, without taking so much of the flesh. And I just thought of something. Maybe I will use some of these roots for my ginger bug too. I don't have to discard it. But the way I like to do it is just put this spoon like this against the flesh, and then you pull it down. That way you remove the skin, but not so much of the flesh. I'm gonna have to put this closer to me because it can be a little messy. It's easier with ginger. The ginger comes out pretty fast. This one is holding on to a little skin a bit more. But still, if I was going to use a peeler, I think I probably lose a lot more of the flesh. But if you're more comfortable with a peeler, go for it too. I just like this trick. And the spoon, because it's kind of round, you can kind of get into the nooks and crannies. When you're using a peeler, it's a little hard because it's straight and you can't really, follow the curves of the roots you're trying to peel. I was reading online about making this, and traditionally, I think you're supposed to boil the turmeric before dehydrating. We are not going to do that today. Maybe another time when I have the other type of turmeric that is more common. For this one, I'm just going to dehydrate and see how the color will look like and the taste of it will be. So it's more like an experiment. And I'm gonna cut the top here. And here we have it, or peeled turmeric. Now I'm going to slice carefully. When you use a mandolin, I always go very careful. And the thing is sharp, so you don't have to apply a lot of pressure. Always have your hand flat when you're doing it, so you don't do it like this so your fingers won't get caught if you do it by accident. I think it's too thin. I'm gonna make it a little thicker. Thin is good because it will dehydrate faster. Oops, here's how it's coming out. But I think it's too thin. I wanted to make it smidge thicker. Let's see. There we go. I think this is a good length. I never did this before, the first time dehydrating, but I just feel this is good. It feels more integral. You can have a whole piece. So I'm gonna add to this dehydrator tray over here. Here's the bowl with the sliced turmeric. See if I need any more slices. If you are taking the dehydrator out, you can do other things too. I love dehydrating apple slices at this time of the year. That's something else fun that you can make it a project together. They look like mango slices to me. I'm from the tropics, I'm from Brazil. I have all kinds of mangoes in there that I miss eating. Here you go, exactly one tray. That was nice. We're going to dehydrate this. It might not give it so much powder, but it's just an experiment. We'll see what it's going to give us. And speaking of doing more than one thing, I just thought of this. I'm going to also dehydrate cranberries. Every time I turn my dehydrator on, I try to fill at least a few trays. So I have some leftover cranberries here from Thanksgiving. Those are organic cranberries, but I do want to dehydrate them because I don't have any dried cranberries and I love adding them to my salads. So I'm just going to throw this in here and dehydrate them too. Just like this, and see how they're going to turn out. I've never done this before either. Since I have them, why not, right? Let's try it out and see how it goes. Got a tray of turmeric in here, some cranberries just for fun. I'm going to add the turmeric right on top of the cranberries. I'm gonna add one extra one here with the top. Shouldn't have added in there. And we're just going to cover and turn this on. This was a very inexpensive dehydrator that I bought a few years ago and still works, so I'm still using it. I'm going to dehydrate this at 135 for... I'll start with 4 hours and see how it looks, and if it needs to be drier, I will just add some more time. And this is a little noisy because it is an older dehydrator, so if I turn it on, it will be hard to speak on the video, so I'm going to turn it off. Turn this on right after I finish filming. Alright, that's good. 2 things done very quickly. I am going to freeze the rest of them in a baggie. I reuse my Ziploc bags. I don't like to use plastic very much, but sometimes, you know, I do buy a bag, Ziploc bags, and I try to use them if I can, especially if I'm freezing something like this. I think it's going to be okay. I'm just going to add some of the roots with skin and all. I'm not going to peel it or anything, and freeze the 2 big ones. And that's mostly it for my turmeric harvest. There's a lot of little ones, so I'm gonna freeze this one too. So here you go. I'm going to try to put them just like this in the freezer, same way that I do with ginger. These little ones over here, my hands are super yellow. I'm going to put it in the fridge and see if it will last for me at least a couple more weeks. You know, just try to juice them, make some fresh juice with ginger, or try to cook it with it too. I add this not only to curries, but I also add to braises and stews. I sometimes grate some fresh turmeric, saute with garlic, and put rice and water and cook it that way. It gives us this beautiful, nice, bright yellow color. So there's many things you can do, and if you're not using too much, the flavor is not very strong. But I love knowing that I'm eating something that's super healthy and is good for us. Oh, I also love adding it to bone broth. And I probably should make some because I'm running low. So definitely some of these are going to be added to the bone broth too. And if I have any skins and stuff left, I also add this to broths. So if I'm using it for a recipe that I peel, I never throw away the skins. I always save them to add to broths and stocks when I'm making them. It gives a beautiful yellow color, makes it look very appetizing. So I'll make sure to give you guys an update on how everything looks. I'll keep feeding my turmeric bug. We are going to dehydrate this, and maybe I'll show you guys how it looks like before I powder it. This one's gonna go straight in the freezer. Hey everyone, it's the next morning, and I want to show you guys how the dried turmeric looks like. Oops, it has lost lots of volume in here, and I could definitely have dried some more, but this is good for us just to give a little demo on how to do it. I think I'm going to grind it on my mortar and pestle today. And we are also going to feed our turmeric bug. So here's how it looks today. It's a little darker than it was yesterday. And I'm going to again add more sugar, turmeric, and water. So we're going to use the same amount. I have already got the sugar here and the turmeric pieces that we had left over. A bowl in my microplane, and I'm going to grate a little bit more of the turmeric. But before I do that, this time I'm going to first add the sugar, so while my spoon is clean. This is just white granulated sugar. I like to buy the less processed one. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of that. And then 3 tablespoons of water. I'm using warm water today just to see if it speeds up the fermentation process a little more. I also looked at other recipes and some of them don't add extra water, just more sugar and ginger, but I'm going to, sorry, and turmeric, but I'm going to try to follow this one that I have linked. And last, we will have our fresh turmeric. My hands are not yellow anymore. They're about to get yellow again. But I have the same half fruit that I had yesterday. I'm gonna grate it again with skins and all. I'm going to grate only a little bit, and I have also saved some of that skin from the turmeric that I peeled to dehydrate, and we're gonna use a little bit of that too. So that is some of the fresh here. Sorry about the banging noise. And some of this skin I peeled. It's not as fine, but I think it'll be okay. This is how much I have from what I just grated. Not as much, maybe about like a quarter or a little less than that. And I'm going to complete this with these guys here, just so I can use them too. I do use the skins for broths. Since we're making this and most of the skin, the bacteria is supposed to be in the skin, let's try to give it a boost by reusing this. This is about a tablespoon, and I'm going to add to our starter. Now I'm gonna give it a little mix. We use the same spoon. And I'm gonna let it sit for a couple more days and see what happens. I'll cover it again and put it on the side. Now let's move on to grinding this turmeric. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this very dry turmeric here. It's so dry, it's kind of brittle, so that's what you want, I believe. It dried in about 4 hours, and the cranberries that I put in there needed a lot more time. In fact, they're still dehydrating right now, but these would be fast if I was doing only turmeric. Alright, I'm going to start by pounding it a little bit. Well, easy. Sounds like potato chips. Then I'm just going to grind it, pushing against the sides. You can also probably use a blender. Just had so little that I was not sure if the blender would catch. I don't have a spice grinder right now. I always grind my stuff with my mortar and pestle. But it's working pretty good. It's much easier than I thought, actually. And I guess you can do as fine as you want. I could go finer. Just not sure how long it would take. It smells great. It smells different than it was smelling when it was fresh, for sure. It smells more like turmeric now. Look how beautiful it looks. We've got a nice homegrown turmeric powder for the spice cabinet. Very nice. I hope you guys can see how fine this has actually turned to be. It can be finer, obviously, but it was not even that long. Some crumbs in the middle if I turn it, but it's pretty good to be using more than pestle. Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna stop here for the video, but maybe I'll do a little finer just later so this doesn't get too long. But look at this, we made our own fresh turmeric powder. Love it. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can probably do it in your oven. Just put it to the lowest setting and then you leave it in there maybe for a couple hours. Let it dry until it gets brittle and you should be able to do your own turmeric powder too. And I'll keep feeding this the same way I did today until it gets bubbly, and I'll be back here to show you guys the final product. Hey everyone, it is day 3 and our turmeric bug has some bubbles. So it worked. The fermentation process has started. I have actually fed this earlier this morning and now I can see that it's all nice and bubbly. So our turmeric bug is now ready to make wild sodas. I'm probably going to try to make a turmeric and ginger one and maybe some apple. I don't know yet, I'm deciding, but I definitely want to try something out this weekend. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. And if you're planning to grow turmeric next year, those are a few things that we can do once you harvest, and I'm super excited to see how the sodas will turn out. If you want to see when I harvested this turmeric, I will link a video right over here so you can watch that next. Thank you so much for watching today and I'll see you next time.